I'll tell you what, Nick. My week has been there's not been a single tornado. However,
Good.
I did share that the tornado picture a lot of times while I was out of
Yeah.
town at some work stuff. That was a very popular picture to share. I was impressed, like how thoroughly like that had permeated the entire consciousness of the war, like I guess the people that I was around. We even Nick. So like I went to Florida. I went to Tampa, Florida.
Yeah,
It
you told
was
me.
yeah, nice and warm. And obviously, well, I don't know about obviously, but everybody in Florida knew that there was a tornado that was around where we were. But also, what I did not expect, at least I don't think that I expected, was I met with a handful of people that were stateside from India, and like a good number of them, like also asked about the tornado that they had heard from like their local
man.
news. Like it's just like, oh my gosh, I did not realize that this was such a
Your problems are famous.
globally interesting problem. Yes. But anyways, I
I
just
feel like it might be because like tornadoes are very localized, right? Like I will literally if I never talked to you, I would never think about tornadoes. Tornadoes are just some faraway thing. I'm like, oh look, there's a dust tornado. That's crazy, and like you drive past it and life moves on. You know what I mean? And that's like the extent of it.
It is. I'm reading my pre-intro notes, and I, similar to oftentimes when I do these things and then I look away for a while, I have no conceivable idea of what we were doing. So, Nick, oh wait, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to do. Nick, okay, you ready? So, I have the new thing, the new toy, and I can do our intro live, and so I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'll do it every time, but at least this time, I'm going to do it live on the podcast where I push the button and it's going to do our intro music. I'm going to do the intro just how it actually plays, okay? Nick, you're supposed to say okay, and then I'm going to push it.
Okay. I love our intro music.
Hello and welcome to the year we started a podcast. It's a podcast born Phoenix-like, live from the ashes of last year's podcast with all the good secrets and such. I am your co-host, Jeff.
I'm your other co-host, Nick.
That was like thrilling.
I enjoyed that a lot. You should probably edit me out saying, I love our
don't
intro.
worry.
I mean,
Yeah, no.
it's very...
For sure editing you
Yeah,
out.
it's useless.
Also, but it was like somewhat terrifying of like knowing when I was gonna hit the hello, and who knows, maybe I did not, but I think I did good. We'll see. That's what
I think it was pretty good.
Anyways, yeah, this is a podcast. We're a couple of friends, half a continent apart, that are coming together to talk about some things and some secrets that are fun and interesting to us. Hello, sir. Did I
Hello,
do that
sir.
thing? Did I even give you the? Did you say you're Nick? He's Nick.
I did.
Okay,
I did say that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, Nick, I went to, like I said in the intro, I went to Tampa, and before I tell this story, I have to tell another story, and this is going to be a little bit of a journey, so buckle up, I guess.
Buckled up.
So Nick, before I guess
Wait, hold on. Do you think I should knuckle up?
Knuckle up, buddy? Hey.
That's a different year. I'm sorry. That's a different podcast. Sorry. Continue.
That's last year's podcast, but technically this year also, but it's hard to say. Okay, so Nick, you know I am one that is sometimes made a little bit uncomfortable from awkward situations with people that I barely know. I mean, or people I know quite well. Like this is not a surprise. Yes. I hope.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Not surprised. Okay. So a year ago, this was let's call it June of 2021, and it was my very first time traveling away for work stuff, like in a weird time with the pandemic where it was like it was basically good, like we all had our vaccines, and then all the other stuff.
Awesome.
Like it was like a good like 2 months there where we thought it was all over. And then so anyways, I also went to Florida then, and it was like we went out to dinner with some folks, which was very, very weird, thing I hadn't done in a very, very long time. And then we went back to our hotel to have a drink before going to bed, and then everybody wanted to still do stuff, and so but we went back to the hotel, and hotel was like closed, like everything was closed down. So we ended up like deciding like, all right, we're gonna go. There was a place where you could play some pool, and we were gonna go play some pool at a bar. Again, like all of us making up for lost time with pandemic stuff. In all fairness, literally may have already told this story on the podcast like a year ago, so hard to say.
That's fine.
But so we called an Uber, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning to go play pool at this place. And we go into the Uber, and before we were doing that, there was another guy there that I had kind of known. I'm like, hey, you should come play pool with us. Hello, stranger. It's all good times. Well, we called the Uber, and they showed up, and then there was not enough room for this person that I had convinced at 1 o'clock in the morning to come hang out with us. And so, like... Literally at the moment, it was like we got into the Uber, like there was not enough seats. They're like, all right, see you, buddy. Goodbye. And I died inside. I felt so bad, Nick. I've thought about this like nonstop for a very, very long time.
Oh my God! I hope today that he got to, or I hope he got to turn it around on you at some point.
Well, okay, so put a pin in this story. I just needed you.
Good.
I need to retell this story so that I can tell this next story.
Oh, good.
So this time around, again, like I haven't honestly. I think that was like that was the only conference thing I did last year, and this is the first conference. Maybe I did one other one. I think this is the second conference thing I've done this year, and kind of a similar situation. We were going to go to dinner, and there was a group of 4 of us, and we went out, and so like Nick, I'm like, I see the best in all people, and nobody can offend me. Like I'm like the most easygoing folks of all time. Like there's it's very
is true.
hard to
I said
upset
yeah
me.
like that. I meant like, oh, I can't relate, but like also like, you know, like that is true. You are a good person with a good heart. Who
It's not
that people have good hearts.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, this has nothing to do with being good. It's just being like I like people, broadly speaking, and I'm a little bit blind to maybe some negative things that people could potentially do.
Okay.
I like I said, I assume the best in people. But we were going, and I was with a group of it was like 5 of us, 5 of us, and we went out, and we were going to go to dinner. And again, me being the oblivious person that I am, we walked out, and this was a group. So I worked for a credit union, and this was like a credit union data conference. There was 3 credit union people and 2 different vendors that were there. And I guess the 2 vendor people were not getting along. Like they were from different vendor things, and like just not. It was very, like in hindsight, very weird, but you know, whatever. And so we go, like, what are the things that, like, when you walk outside of a building where it's like a circle that goes around instead of like going through regular doors? I don't know what the actual name for that is called.
I know what you're talking about, but I mean, you see it. I feel like they're straight out of every 80s movie from Wall Street or from just like Manhattan. Yeah,
we'll call it a door carousel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Revolving door? Is it just a revolving door?
I think it's a revolving door, yes.
Wait, I think the technical term is door carousel.
We
Actually, so like, I'm pretty sure, right? So you're going through a door carousel, right?
So we were getting ready to go through a door carousel, and one vendor guy goes through door carousel. Other vendor guy goes through door carousel, but comes back through other side of door carousel, and he's like, "We're going somewhere else." And like it was so jarring. I had no like response to what like the guy that we were also with. He's on the other side. What do you mean? And I guess like he had done some things that were offensive to other people, and so I'm like, well, I am so unconfrontational enough that I'm just gonna go with this, I guess. So we randomly ditched the other guy, and I felt very, very uncomfortable about this for a very, very long time. Before I tell,
that's a hard situation.
Yeah, hard situation. I will say that made me. So before I feel, because I even feel awkward telling this now, because like. It it makes me feel like a bad person even going along with this. Shortly afterwards, the guy ended up getting kicked out of the entire conference for offending a number of people, and then unknowingly upset the CEO. Like literally, so like in hindsight, not the worst person to randomly ditch. He ended up getting kicked out of the conference. So, you know, I feel like at least I could sleep a little easier because of that.
Yeah, I mean, so I will say, like, I would trust your instincts on, like, you know, like if somebody was uncomfortable, I would trust your instincts on that, like, implicitly. Also, like, glad you were a little validated in it. Like, I mean, sounds like
by doing of my own. In all fairness,
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it also,
like
that
it just
was the
happened
other
to
thing I was
work
gonna
out,
say.
not from any like social.
It sounds
Jedi
like it was
work
kind
that I
of
did.
not even in your it wasn't even your fault whether this person got ditched or not, and I don't know what you were supposed to do in that situation.
I mean,
but
at that
yeah.
point, yeah. I mean, that would have taken a level of. I mean, let's say it was unjust. That the level of social maneuvering to make that like work well with other people that I
Exactly.
barely know would have been quite substantial. So, wasn't going to happen. Glad it worked out. Sorry, guy that got kicked out of the conference, but not sorry that much. So. Anyways, so I'm already feeling like super awkward about ditching this guy. We end up going to dinner anyways. So we get out of the Uber, go to dinner, and lo and behold, Nick, the guy that we randomly ditched from last year happens to be walking into the restaurant that we are walking into.
So wait, did you ditch him? Like, was it like kind of amenable of like, oh shoot, we didn't realize the seating of the Uber, or like what was the situation? Like, did you leave on bad terms?
It was just like it was just like an awkward thing. It was like, sorry, and like we got in the Uber, closed the door, said bye. Like what else were we gonna do? Like, but we told him like come meet up with us, and he's like, obviously not. Like it took us like 15 minutes to get for this Uber. Like he's not just gonna like come with us. So, but anyways, this was a year ago, and so.
So did you tell him like, oh yeah, we just ditched some random guy?
I'm like,
you tell him we're just serial ditchers who just
we're just serial.
we're actually 16. We're actually all 16 still, and we find some sick pleasure.
It was just like the perfect alignment of my like literally you could not have asked for a more perfect combination, because like I was already super guilty about ditching people, and then the guy that we totally did, and then, like I liked him too, like we were good, like we've hung out actually at another conference before that, like he's a person I generally know, and like we just randomly ditched him, and then he was there at dinner. So I took whatever social energy I could, and I made that be like, all right, I have to make this better for my own conscience. So I'm like, dude, I cannot believe I told him the whole story, and I told him how bad I felt. And I told him like, dude, you have like, let us buy you dinner, and come to dinner, please. This time, let me make it up to you. We ended up going to dinner, and it was a super, super fun time.
Good.
But yeah, so that's my fun 2 years in the making now travel story about weird social interactions and people.
You want to know
food.
My only social skill that I've ever had in my entire life is like I've realized the way that you handle that is you be vulnerable and try to make it like a lighthearted vulnerability. Like, dude, I can't believe that happened. I'm so sorry. Let me make it up to you. You can apply that like sentence or those like string of phrases to almost any time that there was like some weird, awkward, terrible thing. Like you just be vulnerable for a minute, be like, gracious in the fact, or gracious is the wrong word. Like
I know what you mean though, like
self-deprecating or
don't try to cover it up any more than what it is. Like this is where we're at, and I'm sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. It mostly smooths everything over, right?
Yep.
But I'm glad it came out well with the person who didn't deserve to be ditched, and the person
I righted a year-long wrong from the
exactly
because he definitely did not. He's a great guy.
So like, how do I get in on the ditching group without getting ditched? Like,
oh, Nicholas, I don't know. It's hard to say. And like all social interactions have changed over the last 2 years. So it's like we all of the things that we did learn between the beginning of our lives and now are just all different. So starting from zero. Here we go. All right, Nick, tell me a story that you have here. I don't even have an inkling of an idea.
It's not a story. Okay, so for our listeners, I apologize because I think that sometimes my brain is so preoccupied with the media that I consume, like stories in particular, that I don't have anything else interesting to talk about. But all I want to talk about with Jeff is media. But if you like the same media I like, then it probably is awesome because
great.
Jeff,
I watched
I finished the Ozarks this week.
Snap!
We've talked about the Ozarks. Have you watched the Ozarks?
So we watched an episode, I feel like, and Katie bounced off of it, and so I haven't watched it. But I have heard now, if we're going to talk about it being a good show, that you'll be like the 75th person to tell me that I need to watch it, which I feel like at that point I've hit the critical mass that I am required to watch this, regardless of whether or not it's something Katie watches with me.
That's fair. And also, I remember us talking about that, and also the tone changes like drastically.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, but also in a good way. I think the show is totally brilliant, but the ending was like they released this is season 4, I believe, and they released the season in 2 parts, and the final part was just released a couple weeks ago, and Jen and I finally got around to watching it, and the ending was one of those endings that is not satisfying and highly divisive. Like the last episode is, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but the last episode is like a 6.8 on IMDb, and everything else is like 8 or 9.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I do know this show to be generally
hugely critically acclaimed. Yeah, critically acclaimed, like incredibly popular. Yeah, and it's really weird because. So how do you feel about like the bittersweet, like not giving you the complete character arc style ending? Like I don't know if there's a good example for this. I think like I feel like the Dexter ending was very tainted by Dexter's last season just not being good.
I actually, you know what, Nick? I've never watched Dexter, so I'm not one to speak on that. So also maybe a thing I should watch.
I know what I know you know broadly. How do you feel about the endings that are intentionally, or I believe intentionally, not satisfying?
So, do you mean, would you would this be a description that you would agree that is what this is? So, like, is this an ending that, like, it's not that it tried to tell a story that, like, it's not that it tried to tell a conclusion that wasn't conclusive. It's more so that it purposefully let, like, the ending be a little bit open to interpretation. Is that what happened? Or
it's not so much that it's open to interpretation. It's that like all of the strings aren't closed, and they're definitely the ones that aren't tied up in a way that is super satisfying.
Is
like,
this okay? Sorry, go ahead.
No, to give you an example of what I mean, like I think that Breaking Bad is just an outright. The ending is absolutely satisfying because even though Walter dies, everyone spoilers for Breaking Bad.
Spoilers, jeez.
I know. Even though Walter dies, I have watched
Breaking Bad.
I know. Even though Walter dies, we all knew he was going to die. And you know what happened to his family afterward. And you know what happens to Jesse, at least in the fact that, like, you're like, okay, we don't know the exact details, but we know Jesse got away. Jesse was saved. Jesse can theoretically be out. Like, we have a conclusive storyline to Jesse. We have a conclusive storyline to Walter. So if you can imagine a world where, like, the ending is like, oh, is like Jesse gonna continue doing drugs? Like, it's not. Yeah.
So I'll say, I think Breaking Bad did. I mean, I'm sure people will complain about it for different reasons, like because it's the internet and shows and people have opinions. For a TV show that was a drama, I feel like that was one of the / maybe my favorite ending to a TV series ever.
I agree.
I agree. It was the right amount of, like, we're showing you enough so that you can sleep at night, but not telling so much that this drags on for another 2 seasons while we, milk this thing for whatever cash we can.
Right.
So yeah, no, I
also like how well they wrapped everybody's character arcs up. I thought they Walter didn't get a full redemption, but you kind of understood him, and Jesse really did get redeemed, and you know what I mean. Like every like you kind of have like every character you don't have questions left about the characters. Right?
Oh man, that was a good freaking show, dude. Like even thinking about this again, like you saying like, yeah, Walter didn't get a full redemption because he didn't deserve a full redemption. Like he did lots of terrible things. But oh man, that was a good show. Okay, so Ozark, not that then apparently.
So what I would say about Ozark is the Ozark series ends with like some dissatisfaction. Like I'm kind of okay with this model of ending, and I feel like there's been a lot of writers in drama television going for something like this. I'm not going to spoil it because it's too new. But
yeah, literally, please don't, because I just talked about how I want to listen to it or watch it.
Likeable characters getting unlikable endings. Characters not being redeemed and also maybe not being fully punished. And I think the reason that they're going that there's an attempt to write that way is I relate everything back to Game of Thrones because I'm a nerd who can't help myself. George Martin talks about one of the reasons that he writes Game of Thrones the way that he does, and like the setting is what it is because he read Tolkien as a kid and was a huge Tolkien fan, but Tolkien ends and all of a sudden oh god, what's his name? Aragorn is like set to be king, and it's cool because Aragorn's a nice guy and therefore he'll be a good king, right? And Martin's idea is like, dude, this guy doesn't know how to be king. Like he's a fighter. He's been like a ranger or whatever that is for like his entire life. Like he doesn't know how to be a king, and like that's a huge amount of expectations, and not everything is tied up as neatly as that. And I think that like the idea is that we have a generation of writers that are trying to make their drama more like realistic, and by making it an attempt to make it more realistic, they're leaving things less satisfactorily ended and like less like neatly tied up, and more like complex endings where it's like, well, that was really bittersweet, that was brutal, and like, oh, maybe things aren't going to be perfect afterwards. And I'm kind of okay with it, but I think it's like a much harder needle to thread, and I don't know if that like resonates with you at all.
No, it definitely does. Like that was basically, it is a hard needle to thread. I think it is I mean, I get why people want to do it because I think when done right, it's really good. And also like, yeah, I don't want to say, I do think that some of the best endings, both in, you know, shows or just literary endings also, like it all, like if you can do a good job ending a series or ending a book or ending a story in general without having to like dot every I and cross every T, I think that's good and special. And I like that. Like there should be a little bit left to the imagination.
Completely agree with that. Completely. Yeah.
I want to be happy. Like, all right, I guess I want want more at the end of it, and that's good.
Yes. I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that.
That's why I edited our podcast down so much. Is like I just, you know, if we were to let this go, if we were to let this run full length, it would be terrible.
That's fair. Well, I'm trying really hard not to oversaturate the podcast. You're all welcome.
That's a heavy editing finger, Nick.
You deserve. To be fair, you are both a good editor, but also you should be editing out a ton of these. So.
Oh, don't worry. I got us both. I got us both, bud.
Okay, so I'll leave it here. But did you watch The Wire? Have you watched The Wire?
That's another show I've watched an episode of, bounced off. I have to at some point based on everybody.
Yep. Agreed. So The Wire, to spoiler alert, okay, and this isn't like even much of a spoiler alert.
Okay.
So the Wire, for our listeners and for you, is a crime show, a crime drama centered around a bunch of detectives investigating the drug trade and gangs in Baltimore. Okay, and as you can probably assume, it's trying to take a very critical look, and it tries to take a very serious look, and at the people that can get involved in those kinds of things and drugs and gangs. And the end of the show isn't like, we got all the bad guys, we did it, and then the world was much better. The end of the show is very much like, oh, well, there's bad people in power still. And, there's still the drug trade, and there's still injustice in the city, and life goes on, and the detectives got to get back to work and try to that's what it is, right? And that's what I mean, really. That's a better example than like Dexter or something of an ending that is not wholly satisfying. Not all characters get like to either walk off into the sunset, and not all characters that can't be redeemed get caught and like get duly punished, right?
Right.
So, and that's kind of what a better example of what I meant. So yeah.
No, that's really good.
Anyways, point is, Ozark was really, really good. I don't know how I feel about the ending fully, but the whole season is great, and the series is great. You should watch it.
All right. Actually, you've recommended that to me on the podcast before for
probably 3 times.
Least once. At least once. But, Nick, you're not alone in your multiple recommendations for it, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, are you ready? I am so I guess excited.
I'm so excited by this the title of your.
I've been reading
the
this
notes
for a
are great.
while. Do you know what this is? Just from for our listeners in the show notes right now, I have what is it? McDonald's and Hasbro. Do you know what this is?
No. So I assume that like McDonald's, it's about McDonald's toys that they partner with Hasbro for, but I don't know.
No, sir. Here we go. All right. When I was going through this, I found a number of things, obviously.
Okay.
I did land late in my like Googling, sorry, I said Googling. I meant to say research. Late in my research, I saw this quote that I just loved, and I put this at the top of my notes. So, in 2019. Deputy leader of the United Kingdom Labour Party, Tom Watson, said that monopoly promotion was a danger to public health and urged McDonald's to drop the grotesque marketing strategy. So this is going to be about the monopoly stuff with McDonald's.
Okay.
I guess I assume.
Hold on.
I assume you're aware that Monopoly game piece thing is a thing with McDonald's, or was.
I am very well aware. Yeah.
Okay. And I just love the idea that there was a politician who wanted to urge them to stop because it was grotesque, because of the danger to public health. That's
really good. That's very politician-y to be focused on.
Yes. I love it. I have no idea about Mr. Tom Watson and his politics, but he's in the
Me
show
neither.
now,
The name like vaguely rings a bell, maybe, but
it
does
does also vaguely, and I don't want to Google it to know. So
nope.
I'm living happily in ignorance. Ignorance is bliss,
Ditto.
especially in podcasting. Okay,
Yep.
so
hold on. Before
okay.
Sorry, I can you read me the quote again, because there was like a sound outside and I got distracted like an idiot.
In 2019, Deputy Leader of the United Kingdom Labour Party, Tom Watson, said that the monopoly promotion was a, quote, danger to public health, end quote, and urged McDonald's to drop the, quote, grotesque marketing strategy, end quote.
God dang it. I also want to say he's a UK politician. I definitely don't know who he is, so there you go.
It's all good. All right, so we're going to talk today about the Monopoly promotion with McDonald's. Which do you want to just like throw a dart at when you think that this started? Like the Monopoly promotion from McDonald's started.
1993.
That is surprisingly close. 1987.
Oh,
before
come
before both of us were born. So, like, in all fairness, yeah, that would have been hard to get right.
I feel like there was like a really big surge in like our childhood of like just freaking like merchandising and like cross marketing, like I don't know the word I'm looking for, like just getting thrown at the wall, just like screw it, like what do you want
This
like
thing
Reptar?
was like pure 90s, like this whole thing,
exactly,
like, this like embodies all things 90s to me, like
exactly, like why are you getting a Pokemon card out of a Burger King thing? I don't know.
Because because it works.
Yeah, it totally does. It's not like, yeah, it's obviously an effective strategy. I think they still do it, right? But like,
okay, yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. So
go ahead.
This started in 1987, and in some form or another, this is actually still going. It happens now every March, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really been plugged into the McDonald's scene from a couple months ago, but ostensibly it still is going.
The McDonald's scene. I love the idea of like message boards full of people like discussing McDonald's.
Nick, you'd be surprised.
I know. I believe it.
I did try to find like how much money they've made from this, because it did feel like distressingly ubiquitous from my childhood. Like I literally remember my grandparents having a Monopoly board where they would put like the pieces onto from like all of our family, and we would like be, I don't know. It just senselessly.
Did you get Safeway or any of its other like? Do you get the freaking the grocery store ones, the grocery store Monopoly crap?
We never
Okay.
did. Is there? Is there another version of this that's not?
Yeah,
McDonald's?
I don't know if it's implemented the exact same way, but yeah, like it was just like it's the same thing. Everyone like pooling it together at work and crap, and I can't, dude, I can't.
I love it. I genuinely think this was like the fact that it is still going. Like this is a promotion that we're talking about like 40 years, like coming up with like 35 years now.
35 years.
And
sheesh.
That, I mean, whoever came up with that one let them retire because they I don't know what the dollar amount is, but it is in. I mean,
I hope they had some way of getting like royalties, like ad nauseam. You know what I mean? Like, there's
dude,
like this one dude who's like still cashing checks.
like they deserve it because there has to be. I mean, just the fact that McDonald's is not stupid. They would not be doing this if it was not still making them money. And so that means at this point, 35 years later, it is still a big promotion that they do where they still
100%.
make a ton of money. So yeah, good job, guy or girl. Probably honestly. 35 years ago, probably dude, based on how the world worked. But yeah, no, that is crazy. But yeah, so Nick, back in the day up until now, you could do anything. You could win yourself some chicken McNuggets. You could win a fillet of fish. You could win a medium French fry or a large French fry, Nick. You could win drinks. You could win. Let's see, I'm going through the list here. This is less interesting than I had originally thought. You could win hash browns. You can win oatmeal. McDonald's has oatmeal if you didn't know. You could win. I don't know if I see on this right here. You can win a quote premium McWrap. I don't know what a premium McWrap is. I do remember they had like the chicken something wrap things. So I don't know. Okay. But Nick, you could also win a trip to the Super Bowl. You could win fuel for a year, which, oh my gosh, like that's worth its weight in gold nowadays. You could win an Xbox. You could win an ATV. You could win beach resort vacations. You could win cars. You could win Cabela's barbecue package, whatever that means. Nick, you could win a lot of things.
I have no idea what that means. Okay, there's a lot of options here. There's a lot of good prizes.
Lots of things that you could win. And I'm going to talk about how this kind of played out. But I do want to like take a quick pause before we dive into kind of the meat of the fun of this. Have you ever noticed, Nick, when you see these sort of things, it says the like classic line of no purchase necessary? Like do you know? Like, have you noticed this?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes, I feel like I've heard that phrase several times. But also, like, I don't even know what that's implying now that I'm giving it thought. Like, no purchase necessary to redeem the prize?
So no purchase necessary to enter into the opportunity to win. And I actually do know this firsthand for some work things. So there is a law, and we'll kind of get into the details, but basically this sort of gambling is not legal in the sense of like people paying for an opportunity to win something is not legal for stuff like fast food and whatnot.
That makes sense.
And so there's a very interesting way to get around this. And the reason why I know this is like we have ran promotions at my work where like people can swipe their debit card for a chance to win blah blah blah, like a trip to Hawaii or whatever.
Sure.
So you can swipe your debit card, and every time you swipe it, you enter into a chance. And I actually got to run the back end of that. Of like, here's all the people that have done the thing, and now we're gonna come up with an algorithm. The answer is randomize. We're gonna randomize the person that's gonna win. But the interesting thing about that is we had to do the same thing, where you did not have to actually swipe your debit card to enter into the contest. You could also mail us in and
come on.
You could literally write in.
Come on, Jeff.
Through the mail, a postmarked letter,
all right,
telling us that you would like to enter into that contest. And the reason behind this, I actually looked this up, is for it to count as gambling, for it to not count as
gambling, you have to have the option to get into it without having to pay anything, right?
Yeah. So basically, you have to.
Come on.
Gambling is defined as having prize, chance, and consideration. Meaning anybody needs to be able to break one of those. So like either you have to have no prize, there has to be no chance, so like that would be like a competition, or there has to be no restriction on consideration. And so that's what all these people are doing. So like even like McDonald's, you could mail in a letter to McDonald's corporate and say, I would like to enter into your Monopoly game, and they would have to like send you the things and on the back of some unused hash browns or something, you could take off your free chance at winning $1 million or whatever. But yeah, we had the same thing. So like people they could mail in, and we had to make sure that we were like considering them equally. And so we just ended up using random number generator, and if it happened to fall within a number that was the letters that we received, then we would go through those. Or if it was the other like bajillion people that used their debit card, we would do those instead. And thankfully it did not end on the ones where we have to physically go through letters. But yeah, so there is a law that makes that be the case, where you have to either remove prize, chance, or consideration.
Well, I am now sure. I am now positive, deep in my soul, that McDonald's does not qualify as gambling, because you could totally mail McDonald's corporate and ask for a Monopoly piece.
100%, you can. That's what they did.
You can, but when I say, oh come on, what I mean is like, yeah, okay, you can like totally mail McDonald's for like one single entry, one single piece, and like they'll get it back to you in 2 to 4 business days.
2 to 4 business years.
2 to 4 business years from receiving your mail, which you know. And also it being processed because they do have to process a lot of it.
I'm sure they're going to mail you the winning one for sure.
They will,
because that's what they want to publicize. Like,
right.
Oh man, yeah, don't come buy our stuff. Just send us free thing or send us stuff in the mail. That's what we want for sure. All right, Nick. So that's like a weird sidebar.
Sorry, I got caught up in the sidebar.
Oh no, I love it. Like when I went through this and like I got into like because I saw the same thing of like no purchase necessary. I'm like that feels so visceral to me now that I had to do that back like 2 years ago, and like I'm like, what is this about? And so I like looked it up, and it's like, yeah, you have to remove one of prize, chance, or consideration. And so everybody removes consideration because you can just mail it in to be considered for the thing. Okay. So it's not gambling anymore, Nick. It's not gambling.
I feel like there was like somebody who was supposed to be regulating this, and they got told like, so yeah, and when because they can mail in for a single piece, it's not gambling. And the guy was just like, all right, like I don't even know like how that guy got.
It's late on a Friday, like fine, whatever. Let's all go home.
Because like it's so it doesn't inherently bug me, the idea of people trying to win prizes from a Sprite cap or from a Monopoly board or whatever the hell. But like, you're gonna tell me it's not gambling? You're gonna all tell me that's
right, because people can ostensibly mail in something that magically makes it not gambling.
Okay. Anyways, I'm done ranting.
Totally different. Totally different.
It's fundamentally not the same. Of course, dude.
All right, okay. Nick, we're gonna talk about Uncle Jerry. All right.
Okay, Uncle Jerry. Hit me with Uncle Jerry info.
So, in 2000, 13 years after the promotion had been going, the U.S. version of Monopoly for McDonald's got halted temporarily because, Nick, there was some questionable things going on.
Shocking.
It's
2022. It's very shocking to me. Continue.
And I'll tell you, it was not with a bunch of people mailing in letters trying to win this definitely non-gambling thing. So Simon Marketing was the company that did all of the printing of the U.S. Like game pieces on the McDonald's general collection of stuff. And there was a guy named Jerome Jacobson, who will here on be called Uncle Jerry, who was a former police officer. Note, former in the sense of did not get to choose to be former. He had that chosen for him.
Well, it's nice of them to take, to go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, he lost his job as a police officer and went on to be the head of the chief of security for Simon Marketing. Nick, I mean, I hired some people in my day, but I don't know that I would consider a person who got fired from law enforcement as a great choice for my chief of security. No, I mean, that seems like maybe a little bit of a red flag, but what do I know?
Maybe he got fired for going above and beyond.
Maybe this story doesn't go the way we're thinking, but Nick, don't worry, it does. So basically every prize that was redeemed from the years 1995 to 2000 ended up being a little bit insuspect.
Okay.
Yeah, so good old Uncle Jerry, he was in charge of transporting these game pieces. He was in charge of transporting these game pieces, specifically the ones that were the winning game pieces, like through various airports with like some tamper-proof. What's the tamper-proof sticker things called? What would be the right way to say that?
I don't know tamper-proof seals, tamper-proof.
Yeah, like tamper-proof watermark seals that like just basically to make sure like they hadn't been opened. Turns out, Nick, if you have a shipment of those that happen to go lost, that really hurts the integrity of those tamper-proof seals. When just they happen, and again, not to spoil too much here.
And you're telling me the guy who was fired from the police was somehow involved in this? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, you know what's real crazy? I mean, you won't even believe this. So, like, they accidentally lost these seals. They ended up at Uncle Jerry's house, which is just a crazy coincidence.
I think so. It's probably just.
It's just wild that something like that could happen. What a coincidence. Anyways,
so they lost an entire shipment. They showed up and like were they found because of like an investigation into Jerry, or what was happening there?
Okay, so here's what happened. I'm not. There's obviously going to be no spoilers that I can do at this point. Like, obviously, this dude was guilty, so I'm not going to pretend.
For you. I'm sorry, I went too hard on the sarcasm. I took away all this.
No. I mean, this isn't going to be like the ending of Ozarks that you can spoil. Like, yes, Jerry did bad. So starting in 1995, he gave away the winning pieces to family members. He did not try to do them himself. He was smart enough at least to know that the chief security guy at the place is probably not the best person to start redeeming $1 million game pieces. So
that's good.
He might not be the brightest, but he's not the dumbest either. So he at least knew to do that. And then it got to be to the point where, and like in reading through this, I think literally every single game piece that was like any significant winning from 1995 to 2000 was literally like went through Jerry's like little cabal that he started here. He ended up making a connection with a different Jerry who he ended up giving a Dodge Viper to through one of these game pieces, and he ended up being, because the Jerry that he ended up, the other Jerry was part of some other mafia things, which is a really great connections, to be able to like make this happen. So he ended up getting himself mixed in with the mafia. And so yeah, it's going great. And so here's how this went, Nick. So
hold on, really quick before you get there, I just want to say I'm picturing like a guy like sitting there with like a box full of freaking Monopoly pieces, and like he's like trying to like buy somebody's services. He's like, I can offer you a Dodge Viper. How's a Dodge Viper sound, Jerry? How's a Dodge Viper sound, Jerry?
Your accent is exactly what I would want. That is the perfect.
I know I'm not supposed to do accents. I know.
No,
I know.
You know what? I accept it for this because that is literally exactly how I picture these interactions going.
This is the weirdest crime I've ever heard of. I love it. So continue, please.
Okay, so he ended up stealing what ended up being $24 million worth of prizes from McDonald's. Which is a staggering number. Because the top prize is $1 million, okay?
Right. Well, he got all 5 of those. We got 5 of those, right?
Like, it genuinely is a staggering number to get away with it for $24 million.
It's so weird. Jerry Jr. won 3 years in a row.
That's crazy. All right? It's crazy.
What are the odds?
So here's what happened. He got hooked up with other Jerry. And other Jerry was he was excellent at extorting money out of people. So he had plenty of people who were willing to go cash this in, and they would all take a cut along the way. It was a good operation, right? Good business model. We should probably look into that. So that went well for a while. And actually, it went well for a very long time. They were, again, not the smartest people, but not the dumbest people either. They sold $24 million to McDonald's. So, props to them. That's more. It's not like you just went around the drive-through a second time and said, I didn't get my Big Mac or whatever. Like you got a pretty good game here. But they would all cash their prizes all across the eastern United States. They were all from Florida. But interestingly enough, like despite the fact that they were willing to
masterminds, they were not.
It's all eastern United States. So apparently whatever highways there are over there, like that's all they were willing to do, or like good flights to New York or whatever.
It's only Jerry Jr. and people from Florida that win. It's so weird.
Yeah, crazy. So other Jerry ended up dying in a very suspect car wreck with his wife. I think.
Jesus.
There's a lot of things about there that probably was not entirely accidental. But we're not going to look into. We're not talking about a murder mystery here, Nick.
But, real quick, I just want to. So like. I love this in part because it's like silly to me. It's like you're stealing from McDonald's, who cares? And like also you're stealing off of the top of like the Monopoly prizes, which is like so like I feel bad for the people who like got invested. I feel bad that, I do feel bad for like property theft or like asset theft, or, even from McDonald's, right? But like who cares? But dude. We're talking about like mafia involvement and somebody getting murdered over a plot for Monopoly prizes?
Well, to be fair, it probably wasn't just that.
Okay. This is the other Jerry you said, the one that was already involved.
Other Jerry, yeah. This isn't just This isn't just Monopoly Jerry.
We can't prove that it wasn't involved with the because of the Monopoly prizes, but. Jesus, like imagine like that's like your plot point in your book. Like I would say that your book is unrealistic. If your plot point was like, yeah, so then the mob enforcer got a freaking hit on him because he was skimming off the top of the Monopoly prizes. Like, come on.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. This is me today. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. So, anyways, this ended up coming to head in the year 2000 with an anonymous tip who ended up being the wife of other Jerry's father, who got given, I think it was one of the $1 million prizes, which was one of those things. It's like, that's just like a bridge too far for chance to be like, oh, this guy who's been a part of this, who's part of our security guy, who at this point, actually, spoiler again, they were being like investigated by the FBI at this point, and
good.
There were 25 agents under the Operation Final Answer, which I assume Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is like the joke there. So again, that's the sort of thing in a book. This would be ridiculous, but of course, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like we're talking about the early 2000s. Like what a perfect name.
It seems to me that like government agencies, law enforcement agencies, not just law enforcement, like intelligence agencies and stuff, they really like goofing around with the names of the operation. They're not taking themselves too seriously. Continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the final thing with all of this was a Mr. Michael Hoover, again another person just tied to one of the Jerrys. At this point, it's hard to keep track. He was part of a McDonald's commercial where he was going to be. He had already known, but they were going to film a commercial for the $1 million winner. Except for it was all an FBI plant, and they arrested everybody right after they revealed that he won. It's all on camera. You can find it on YouTube, and it's hilarious. I mean, hilarious, I guess, quote unquote. It's like hilarious and sad, and just the whole. It's a very bizarre early 2000s thing that happened.
That is bizarre, and also kind of sounds really funny. Like
it's not funny because it's all bad, but also it's like I cannot believe that this is happening on something that got
surreal,
recorded.
Right? Like
it's very surreal. It's like literally them. Like he knows that he's done this fraud, and he thinks he's getting away with it, and he's literally has all the like press around to film him like ostensibly pulling the $1 million boardwalk or whatever it is thing from his McDonald's, whatever, and then ends up getting arrested in the middle of the recording. Like that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So two last things here. You want to start with? I don't even know. I was gonna say, do you want to start with a bummer or do you want to start with a good version? Like, I think
let's go out on a good note. So let's start with the bummer. Let's go out on a fun note.
Okay. We'll start with the bummer. So, do you want to know why? Well, first off, did you know about all of this?
No, I had never heard of any of this. This is wild to me. It's hilarious and interesting at the same time.
A big reason why a lot of people don't know about this, and the reason why I didn't get a whole lot of press at the time, the trial started on September 10th, 2001.
Wow,
So,
that's some timing.
So that's...
By the way, I didn't wait to hear the year. You said September 10th, and I was like,
Yeah, no, it was the day before the Twin Towers and such. So, September 11th definitely took the news over, and I'm sure McDonald's didn't mind about that part, even though obviously bad. So that's a bummer. But also interesting. It's interesting, like, how buried this is concerning how big of a thing it is. Like, even today, like, if this were to happen, like, that would be a huge deal.
That's a massive amount of fraud for something that is, like, in the public eye, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that there are much larger cases of fraud than $24 million, but at the same time, I mean, like, $24 million from a public competition, and yeah.
Well, it was I mean, legitimately, I mean, this thing was everywhere. Like, literally, definition of ubiquitous. Like, this was across everything that I was involved in. Like, it was back in the early, late 90s or whatever. Like, I remember this so vividly, and I remember, like, at my grandparents' table, they had a stupid Monopoly board with the parts already labeled off where they had got the things already. It was a big deal, and the fact that it was completely defrauded, and that that didn't really make the news. That's just a crazy idea, but yeah, it makes sense given the context. But
it's a lot of people who probably bought in for a chance,
or mailed it in,
or mailed it in. Yep, a lot of people, and those people deserve compensation for their time. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Okay, Your Honor. So the nicer part of this, I don't know, in italics, is in 1995. So this would have been pretty early on in the fraud. The early days of the fraud stuff. St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, which I highly support St. Jude's Hospital. Like, I think they do a lot of good cancer research for kids and stuff, and something that I've donated to in the past. So, like, I definitely very, very about St. Jude's. They got an anonymous letter back in 1995 that contained a $1 million winning game piece.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So they are technically, it wasn't allowed. The transfer of game pieces was not allowed.
Of course.
Yeah. But McDonald's did waive the rule, and they are still honoring that $1 million winning ticket today, because they don't do it all in one big chunk. It's all in I don't know, over the course of 10 years or something like that.
For sure.
But yeah, they made all the annual payments for that.
That's cool.
So it's kind of cool. But definitely later on found out it was definitely good old Uncle Jerry who sent that, probably because he felt bad.
He's like, look, I'm the good guy here. I'm giving back to the world.
Yeah.
Also, I'm giving back to...
It's a true Robin Hood story.
To Jerry Jr. also.
And also my new mafia friend, other Jerry, who definitely is on the up and up.
Hey man, you gotta have Mafia Jerry to get the St. Jude's too.
I guess. Anyways, so long story, lots of random tangents here. The whole thing was so wild, and it's something that I remember so viscerally in my younger days, and. Yeah, just an interesting thing with marketing.
You mean you remembered the everyone having the Monopoly boards, not people. You don't remember this story from when you were young, did you?
I remember not at all. I remember the free single cheeseburger or single small fry that I got because I got the random railroad or whatever.
Everyone wins a side that they will have to buy a main.
Right. Oh yeah. This is a losing proposition, which is why they still do it today, Nick. That's why they still do it today.
Yep.
Oh man. I need to go buy
that's
some
super.
McDonald's, I
That's
guess.
super interesting and super hilarious and sad at times. And yeah, like I apologize because I feel like I interrupted the flow a bunch to talk about my feelings on
Don't apologize,
how silly.
no.
But
Yeah.
but the reason I did is because so much of it is so hilarious. Like there's a ton of that that's like
It's
really
just bizarre. Like
Yes.
it's truly weird, and like it's the sort of thing that does at some point sound like a bad plot to a movie or a book. But
Yeah, exactly,
that's-
exactly. Like, it
it is
just
what it
feels
is. That's real life.
What are we talking about here? What do you mean Jerry got involved with the mafia? How did that happen?
And they're both named Jerry. Come on. That's gonna be terrible for this.
And they thought it was
casting
a good
crew.
idea to give it to the security guard's wife. Like, what are you talking?
But at least they donated to St. Jude. Okay, Nick, we're going to wrap this up. So, if you would like, you can check out our Patreon only podcast. It's the like this, except for about NBA stuff nowadays. It's at least until the NBA is over. But it's a good time, and you can check that out at patreon.com/TaiWasap.
You can also follow us at Twitter, or wow.
Nick died.
You can also follow
Nick's
us
died.
at TaiWasap on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and not Snapchat. Hopefully I won't be dead there, apparently. And
Hopefully.
you can find all of that at TaiWasap.com.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining me on this weird marketing adventure, sharing some secrets about marketing and whatever. I tried to use secrets again. I liked secrets, but anyways, thank you.
Secrets is good. Secrets is the proper focus on that.
Yeah.
The proper focus.
No, not oozy at all. Completely dry.
You're Uzi welcome. This has been the year we start. That doesn't even
Gross.
make sense. Nick.
That's
Nick,
it's
you don't
gross
even-
and
that's not
bad.
even- Those words don't even
It's
go
gross and
together,
bad.
Nick.
All
This
right.
has been the year we started the podcast. Thank you all for listening.